We are live. Hey,
Hey,
everybody. How are you?
hello,
Well,
hello, hello.
we are excited. We are back in the throne room for our barbershop conversations. I am excited this afternoon because we're going to be talking about some good stuff. Just
Absolutely.
going to give everybody a moment to link up. We're going to do what we do best and share. A moment to link up. We're going to do what we do best and share.
Okay, come on.
I'm glad to know that it's working on your end, Ned.
It is today. Normally it's not, right? So today it did.
Yes, we're grateful for that. So maybe we can like and share. I just want to make sure we are sharing the way we're supposed to share. I'm laughing. All righty. Okay, well, everybody, we just want to thank you for joining us this afternoon in the throne room where we have created a safe space for ourselves to purge from our issues, heal from our wounds, and actually find some rest so that we might be able to transform into that which we have been called and created to become, and that is royalty. Yes. Joining me today is my brother Ned. He is going to be talking with us to this afternoon. I don't know what's going on with my switch today.
Slow down.
It's just been all conversation today. But yes, we're gonna purge from all of that stuff that we had going on today.
That's right. You're in the healing room.
That's right.
You don't have to rush. Let's breathe.
That's right. So let's start that over again. Well, we just want to invite everybody and welcome them into the throne room for our barbershops conversations. We have created this safe space so that we might be able to purge from our issues, heal from our wounds, and find rest so that we might transform into that which we have been created and most importantly, called to become, and that is royalty. We just want to thank you. Yes, we want to thank you guys for taking the time out to be with us. Me and my brother Ned from Pure Care Ministries. Yes. We just want to just say thank you to each and every one of you who joined with us today. We also ask that you like and you share. Please share with all your family, all your friends. We want to invite everybody to the conversation. Most importantly, don't forget, it's okay. Y'all can leave a comment. We want to hear from you guys, right?
Please leave a comment.
Questions. We want to know that you're there. So we are happy to hear from you. Brother Ned, this afternoon, you ready? We're going to have a conversation around submission. We're going to take the cover off this thing. Are you ready?
Let's go. Let's go. As always, we get right in it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I'm going to just start us off with the first question here is, what about the word submission kind of gives hesitation and brings about angst overall, right? So just a overall overview of that submission piece.
So if I had hair, I would be like the hair on the back of my neck stands up from the word, right?
Yeah.
Because, when you first think submission, you think surrender, you think, to give into.
Right.
And for a lot of brothers, that's a hard place to be in.
Right.
Because, don't tell anybody, but most of us are very controlling individuals.
Really? I didn't know.
So, to take on a place of submission means to give up control of some stuff. And that's difficult for a lot of us. And, when you make it a requirement or a prerequisite, it's like, wait a minute. Can you take my left hand first instead of asking me to surrender and submit?
Yeah.
So yes, it is a tough subject, a tough area for a lot of men to step into.
Yeah.
We're not there.
That's good. So I know you said that it means like that, you got to surrender, but overall, what does it represent for the man? Like, give us some more of that nitty gritty piece about what that submission really represents for you guys.
Well, I mean, so I got to take a separate path on this one. I'm sorry. So the old Ned would have been like, it's a fear factor because I'm afraid of the fact that I'm now giving away something of myself. So you're scared. You are honestly on guard because what's being asked of you is not what you're naturally brought into, in the sense of how we're raised. I was sharing as we were discussing this conversation, and you and I spoke yesterday, and I had a conversation with a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and we were discussing it, and he and I both were in the same place of like, that's just a tough place because we weren't raised that way. As men, you were raised to be conquerors, and you're supposed to overcome stuff, and you're supposed to go after and be aggressive, and your tenacious behavior towards whatever your zeal is. And so to surrender or to submit is kind of an oxymoron to that lifestyle. It's like, wait a minute, how do I surrender and submit but also go after it? Because we've been kind of geared or wired or brainwashed to believe that that it's a negative in our life, and it really is.
Right. So what would the Ned now say about the submission piece? Because we grow in understanding, and so I'm hoping that somewhere along that line that maybe there were some shifts, maybe or may not, just some understanding.
Yeah, for me, there were some major shifts, right? And so when I hear the word submit today, it's almost like I might as well just throw my hands up and shout hallelujah, because what that means is that I have the ability now to still be Ned, but be led.
That's good.
And so that part of it for me as a man allows me to still operate in this place of manhood, but also look to a higher purpose, a higher call for my guidance and my understanding. And I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to know it all. I can just be like, okay, you know what? That doesn't make any sense to me in my flesh and in my head, but I can trust God that it's going to work in my behalf and on my behavior because of the fact that I'm now surrendering and submitting to his will, not mine.
Yeah. So we have some people who are just joining us for the first time, and they might have missed our topic. So the topic of discussion today is the struggle of submission in the strong man's journey, right? So we're taking this from the male perspective, and really walking through this so that we can talk about ways in which we can begin to find healing in this space, right? Because I believe that there are a lot of people, period, who really struggle with the submission piece. But most importantly, I believe that it's something that's really big in the African American community. I mean, I've seen people argue about this, give scripture references and all kinds of things. And so I wanted to kind of take the cover off and have that conversation around this submission piece. And so we welcome all of you to the conversation. If you have some questions, if you want to rebuke some things that are being said, feel free to drop those comments. We want you to be a part of the conversation. Ned and I do not know it all. And we don't profess.
We'll never claim to.
Right. And so this is a conversation. This is the throne room where everybody gets to be able to participate, and we want to have your participation. So Brother Ned, as we kind of continue this conversation around submission, what are some of those stumbling blocks per se that a man encounters when dealing with this whole submitting, surrender piece?
Stumbling blocks? No. So what are those? Right? What are those obstacles? Right? I like that word better. I don't know why.
However you want to use it.
However, just answer the question.
However it goes.
So some of the stumbling blocks or obstacles that fall in the way for men. Wow. I mean, there's so many. I hate to say it that way, but there are so many things because I mean, it's as diverse as it is in men. I mean, we're all different. We all operate sometimes differently, and some of our triggers seem to vary as well. And so, for Ned, some of the things that were those stumbling blocks for me was obviously just really being able to let go, being able to honestly and openly just say, I'm going to take my hands off of this. Is hard. That was always hard. It's still a difficult task for me sometimes, depending upon what it is. So to be able to let go of some stuff and really just trust, that it's going to be okay, or that it's in better hands than mine, is always a big piece because, as a man, I'm always thinking I can fix it. So that's probably the biggest piece on my end. I know that there are others who probably struggle with, just the whole concept or the mindset of just, letting someone else be at the forefront, or having to even receive or accept that someone's offering some form of correction or a better way. Sometimes we just get stuck in that because, for a lot of brothers, it's difficult to say I'm wrong, or it's difficult for us to say that, I messed up or I did something wrong. So to have something in your life or in the forefront that you are acknowledging is a better path, or acknowledging that has offers better results for you, is sometimes hard.
Yeah. So I don't know, Ned, if you could see in the comments, if you see the comment box on the side, but we have a brother who's talking about feeling like the stuck and not being able to kind of, in his comment, I'm gonna just read it. So he says, for me, it's supposed to park at my 2-year-old, right? And he talked about that his 2-year-old had passed away and that there was nothing that he could do about it. When I feel that it was someone's fault, I can't react because if I do, they're going to know it's me. I can't even grieve because I have 2 other kids and it's hard. I never knew what a female's life was like being a single parent until now, and it's harder with a man. I'm stuck right now and I don't know how to get out.
Wow.
Brother Rodney, I'm going to say this. Out of everything that we could say right now, we're going to say to you right now that we are with you. Our prayers are with you.
Absolutely.
We feel you, brother. I can't say I know exactly what you're going through, but we are here. We're present. And so, Brother Ned, I'm gonna leave you to encourage that brother inside of this piece, because I can understand where he's saying, my pain and my hurt keeps me from being able to submit to anything.
Correct.
Because I can't see beyond where I am now. So, so go ahead, Brother Ned. So,
let me first echo your sentiment, sis, because absolutely, brother, we are here with you and for you. And again, I don't know that pain that you're feeling, but I do know that, everything that you're dealing with, there is an answer. And sometimes those answers aren't something that you can grab to or hold on to immediately, but hold true to the fact that you have to continue to trust and pray that the God that you serve is going to help you get through your moment. It's not easy. It never will be. It's never promised to us for easy, but know that, you can deal with this. And I think that, the fact that you are acknowledging it now and currently, you identify and see the areas that that you are in need of help and support and prayer in is a huge step. You're not oblivious to the fact that, what you feel is real You're not oblivious to the fact that, where you are in the space that you're in isn't a healthy space. You realize that. And I think that's a huge step for you as you move forward. And just, again, moment by moment, day by day, address those feelings, those emotions. And ultimately, you'll get to a place where you'll be able to share with folks what you're feeling. I know that you stated that was something that you were concerned about. You don't want to feel like you're putting it on someone else to point the finger at them. But sometimes, to have a heart to heart, or as my sister liked to call it, pull the sheets off, those moments are necessary. And they're part of the healing. And they might not happen at the beginning of the process, but be prepared and start preparing yourself for that moment. How do you have that conversation with that family member or those individuals? How does that look? Map that out in your head. What do I say? Anticipate what might be responsive, the response might be, and just prepare for that, because that day is coming and you need to be ready for that, because that's going to be the breakthrough moment for you.
Yeah, that's really good, Brother Ned. That's really good. And actually that kind of leads me to this next question. And the next question really is about how our relationships are affected by the inability to submit and surrender. So I kind of wanted to break this down into what it looks like as far as relationships with our parents. So the mother and the father relationship separately, right? Because the dynamics of the two are different. And most importantly, there are a lot of our households that lack that male figure. And so sometimes it comes back to us when we're older, and it's hard to honor that father, especially when he's been absent. And in that honoring, there's a part of that is that submission piece, right? That being able to have that reverence per se, right? So talk to us about what this looks like and how it really affects us within our relationships.
Wow. First off, it is an absolute impact moment in our relationships. How we were as parents were raised, how we dealt with or learned to deal with situations completely impacts our children and our children's children and so on. I said just yesterday, having a conversation with my son as we were dealing with a moment in our family, in our household. And I talked to him about my struggles and kind of opening the door of understanding so that he can get a perspective of why dad is saying what he's saying to him. I think that helps in the understanding, because I always say to folks, if my dad had explained to me his path, it might have made me have a better relationship with him. It might have helped me understand how to not rebel as much when he was trying to discipline or even guide me. And I think that's one of the things that's missing. And when we're raising and rearing our children, we're so quick to do the immediate. It's either we are, disciplining or we are giving them praise, right? In between those two, there is got to be some tutelage. There's got to be some understanding that happens. And, one of the things that I think as parents, and I see it often, having been in education and working with young folks for years, parents are quick to do one or the other. So it's either, hey, I'm condemning your behavior or I'm praising your behavior.
Right.
I'm giving you, treats and trinkets because you did something great, or I'm taking something from you because you did something bad. But never in there are we explaining why we're doing one or the other. Never are we giving the process of how that happens or why it even happens. And so I think that's huge for us, getting folks to understand processes, or as I like to say, systems, makes a big difference for a lot of us when we're working in those relationships with our families, our children, or even our spouses.
Right. That's good. I'm going to throw the caveat out there. Normally I actually enter into the throne room saying this, that you are not alone out there. If there's anybody who's struggling with suicidal ideations, feeling of loss and rejection, if there's anyone who is feeling like they just can't make it another day, and brother, know that you can and you will. make it another day. There are people who are out here who are wanting to talk to you and willing to talk to you. And so we encourage you to reach out. In the comment box, there is a link to the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Please reach out. You can also connect with us, and we can connect you to additional resources on loyaltynetwork.net. We don't want you feeling like you can't live another moment. These are real serious conversations, and I guess this is the moment where I'm going to say that this is why the throne room was created. It was created for spaces like this, for times like these, whereby people come with the things that are heaviest, right? The throne room is where we lay and cast the cares and the burdens. And so we want you to know that we are here to walk with you. We might not be able to physically do or change anything in life, but we can bestow wisdom. We can share our stories, our experiences. We can be transparent, and all of the things that we have seen in life thus far in our own living to help you just get a glimmer and glimpse of hope to see another day. And so please do not feel like you are alone. Feel free to connect with us. And we just are hoping that you can see the light at when it's all said and done. That's what we're hoping for you.
Amen.
Brother Ned, I'm going to move us along in the conversation to really delve into that relationship piece just a little bit more. And so as we talked about the mother and the father, and we talked about the children from that perspective, how else do we see submission play itself out in our relationships with our younger children, with work, with other men supporting that male kind of attitude? Like how do we see it play out in those spaces?
Wow. So ironically, most folks might think that this is like a hard piece for most men across the board when you're thinking about our relationships with each other.
Right.
Typically, unless you come across the moments where you're dealing with just folks who are just these extreme alpha male individuals, most men kind of stay in their lanes with each other. And what I mean by that is that, we typically know the role that we're in. We're confident in who we are and what we do in most cases, and we stay there. Whether it's right or wrong, we ride it out. And a lot of that comes from us and those brothers who have participated in team sports get that concept immediately, because it's basically about understanding your roles and making the team great. And so that becomes the caveat that we carry when we go into our workplaces. Sometimes when we go into our relationships, we take that with us, which is why there's always a problem, because our women are like, I'm not on that team. And that philosophy or that thinking doesn't work for me. But yeah, so for the most part, when it comes to the relationships between each other, it's almost like I always joke, it's always the nod that brothers give each other, and we immediately understand when you walk by and you see two guys just kind of nod at each other. It's immediate understanding and respect. But when you're talking about with our children or in the workplace, it gets a lot more complicated.
Right.
Because a lot of us don't know how to transition those feelings into those different arenas. When it comes to our children, we don't typically deal with them in a way that helps them develop or grow into those places that they need to, or that understanding that they need to, because we're always, as men, we're always challenging. We're always pushing the button to say, you should be this at this point, or you should be doing that at this point. And so that's that area that, a lot of young men in particular struggle with, because that creates rebellion. It creates the pushback. And then now there's a very broken relationship. I won't say no relationship, a very broken relationship, because it doesn't nurture or grow into anything positive from there. It requires some real intervention at that point. When you're talking about in your job place or even in relationships, it becomes a little more complicated because, in order for that to manifest or for those connections to come together, both folks have to realize what the rules of engagement are.
Right.
And if you're both coming to the table with two different rules of engagement, then it never connects. And so that's always a big struggle in that area. And again, as we've been talking, in order for the engagement to happen correctly, someone has to say, I yield. Someone has to take a moment and say, okay, wait a minute, let me stop. Let me pause and figure out, how do I make this work? And that's that moment of submission to say, because this matters to me, I'm going to stop, figure it out, and then we can move forward. And until that happens, it's just clash because you're never going to
throw in a little side tidbit in here. Quick question.
Here it comes. I saw your face like that.
I was going to say, so who do you think in a relationship submits more? Do you believe that it's the man or the woman? I just wanted to know. I just want to hear your side of it.
I don't know, to be honest with you. It all depends. It depends on the personalities. It depends on the personalities, right? And honestly, it also depends on who wants the relationship more. Right? So in some relationships, the guy might be the guy who's like, I've been pursuing this and I want this. And so he'll go the extra mile to figure it out. And in some cases, it's the woman who wants it. So to answer your question, it's whoever desires the relationship more seems to be typically is the one who'll say, okay, let's stop and figure this out.
Okay. I take it. I mean, you did. You were transparent and say, I don't know. So
I don't know, but that's my thought, though.
Right. So I'm going to press the button to another end of this relationship piece to take it from not just our relationships on the external, but the relationships on the internal, and those who are supposed to be caregivers and teachers and guiders of how we manage that internal piece. So submitting in the eyes of God, in the eyes of the divine. I'm thinking about the relationship with the church and the relationship with God. What really prohibits that submission there? Because we do know that the majority of the people who are attending church communities are women. A lot of our men are absent. And those who are present, the majority have a biblical understanding of submission, whereby it is only focused in one area, one space, and it should not cross the line. Let's just have a little bit of conversation. I said it as nicely as I could.
You said it perfectly for you.
What I thought I could do is I could be me, take my own cover off, right?
Yes, you do. You do that well. So, wow. So I'll go here. So this is probably a few months back. I got in trouble at my church. Right. So I'm one of the instructors for our Bible study course at our church. And so one of the things that I said to folks recently was that, one of the things that gets in the way of our relationship with our higher calling, our God, are our feelings. Right. And so I said to someone in the midst of a class that God really don't care about your feelings. He really wants your obedience and your submission. He wants your yes. Your yes is not attached to your feelings. And so many of us are looking for acceptance in life, period, that we go before God looking for God to just say yes to us when God is saying, no, you need to be saying yes to me. And so our feelings get in the way. We just get, hey, and it is, and as you know, and we've had this conversation before, there are so many folks who end up in church and get hurt and run from God.
Right. Absolutely.
And so what happens in those moments, and this isn't across the board for everybody, but it does happen for the majority, I believe, is that they've allowed themselves to get into this structure, this building with a group of other hurt people, expecting everything to be peaches and cream. And, I've heard many folks use this analogy when I think it works perfectly for congregations. Your church is the emergency room. It's a hospital emergency room. It's where everybody goes that's hurt and damaged and broken and need to heal, or at least need to understand how to heal. There's a prescription for you at church. Right. And so if you go there looking to get somebody else's script, you're not going to ever get healed. You have to go there looking for your own script. You have to go there looking for your prescription. And that's how it benefits us. But if you don't go there to do that, if you go there because that's my mama church, and that's my mama and my mama daddy's church, and so I'm just there because this has always been my family church, then you're there. Yeah, you're in church. Great. Awesome. But have you really looked at creating a relationship that works for you? And sometimes that means you have to sometimes leave the nest.
Right.
You have to fly. You have to get out of the nest and fly. And sometimes where you land is where you now set up camp, and you start learning different philosophies, thinkings, developing your own sense of purpose in God and with God, and then you move forward. But yeah, if you go to church looking for someone else's prescription, you're just gonna get sicker.
So there's another part of this though that I don't want us to overlook. I'm sorry, Ned. We gotta dig in, because it's when we're talking about, even for those who are babes, right, and those who are seasoned, right? When we come to the church environment, if the church is not transparent and open about its position and its feelings about submission and submitting and who does that to who and what, and it doesn't have its own awareness or understanding, we then cause other people to feel like this is the way in which we're supposed to mock our external relationships through others. And so has the church, is it really doing us justice in that space and in that regard? How do we deal with that?
Wow. So there's a couple of different ways, right? So I'm going to take this from two different perspectives, if you don't mind. The first is to answer your question directly, right? There are 1,000,001 examples of the church not being transparent, folks coming to the door of the house of worship and missing the mark because the mark is hidden, right? Because they don't know, because no one's clearly showing or directing or even guiding folks down that path. They're just saying to you, come to church. Join the church. Make sure you do your tithes and offerings, and you can't look that way. You can only look this way. That's you got to dress a certain way. So there's these surface criteria that really creates dysfunction. Let's call it what it is, right? So absolutely, I think that there is a huge disservice done by houses of worship across the land. I'm not here to bash any pastor, any church, or anybody, including my own, but I think that there is a lack of transparency when it comes to helping people build a relationship with God that creates those places of hurt. The other side of the coin, or the other perspective, I'll say, is that, and again, it's the ownership is still on that body to enlighten, educate, and guide folks to here, is to understand that we are the church, that this vessel is the church, right? And so when I'm thinking that I am the church, that Ned is a church of God, that I should be then thinking along the lines of, what does this vessel need from the creator, the person who created it? And so when I go to God, I'm thinking along the lines, I should be thinking along the lines of, God, help me understand how to drive the vehicle you gave me. You know what I mean? Help me understand, you made this. So,
but that's easier said than done, Ned.
Now, and I'm only going there. Let me help you. The only reason I went there because you gave the the babe and seasoned saints perspective.
Right. Because that
from
comes
a
with
babe
spiritual
perspective,
maturity.
right,
Yes.
right. And so maturity, the seasoned saint is the one who I'm speaking to when I say that, right? The person who's been in the church, who's been a member of, said, Baptist, AME, Pentecostal, whatever church, that person, that relationship is important to you because you've made it important. It's not built off of your pastor's drive. It's not built off of the deaconesses and the deacons boards. It's your relationship with God because God gave you this vessel. But again, in that same vein, in that same voice, it's the babe, the newcomer to the church, the person who's newly involving themselves in this body of faith. That person needs to have that transparency from pastor, member, whoever, because all of us are responsible for discipleship. They're responsible for helping a person understand the transparency that's needed and that's required to have an honest and open relationship with God.
Right.
You'll be beating me up. I saw you was ready.
So we just in conversation.
Absolutely.
What I just take is that we have a duty and an obligation as the church individual to the whole, to the wider, to help guide the practice and the understanding of what submission looks like within individual cells, within the family unit, and then within the community. And that's my personal take on it. And I do feel that the church has done a real bad job of that. And I'll just keep that there. So the next question,
you're right.
I'll just keep that right there. So the next question really has to do with the woman male piece of this, because oftentimes,
No,
not yet. We got a few more minutes.
We got some minutes.
Yeah. So really, this has to do with how. I've heard at times that it's like, well, why should I submit to her when she just mouthy and she this and whatever, and men have that perception like, oh, well, the submission part is for you to do to me, and I'm gonna make sure I'll protect you, but how does the woman perpetuate this negative feeling and thought around submission? I'll flip it. You want me to flip it for you just to help out with that?
No, you're fine where you are. Listen, no matter how you flip it, it's still going to end up back at this place. So let's keep it where it's at. So So let me give this perspective, right? And this is I'm going to go around the mulberry bush to get to where
the world is listening to you. All the women who birthed you.
That's fine. Listen, the only woman that really matters at this moment in time for me is my mama. So, if she gonna jump on me, I'm just gonna be submissive.
You're gonna learn today.
Everybody else will be like, what?
That's it. So
there's I can't sugarcoat this. I got to go in this direction.
Yeah.
So here's the struggle that I see when we talk about relations and submissive behavior and willingness to be submissive in relationships. For women, I think that the desire to be led by a man is something that's innate, that it's in them to do so, right? The problem happens is when most brothers don't know how to lead in that fashion, right? So that's the nut. So now as we crack this nut open and realize part of that issue is, so one of the things that I've learned, and this is learned through my mistakes and my errors and my bump in my head in the dark moments, right? Is that I can't ever lead a woman if I don't have vision. If I haven't made a connection to say, here's the path, and here's why we're on this path, and here's what we're looking to have happen along the path, and then when we get to the destination at the end of that particular journey, preparing for the next. If I don't have that, then that woman has no reason to surrender, submit to me, because I haven't given her a baseline to follow.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my process, my thinking in this day and age. The
That's
struggle
good.
sometimes is that even when you're a brother who has that, and we deal with a cohort of women who've been hurt, misled, run astray, their insecurities, their fears, their inhibition says to them, I don't trust you enough to follow you. Even if your vision looks right, sounds right, even smell good, and so then becomes this tug of war moment of, this man saying, listen, this is what I believe God is calling for me, and I want you to be a part of that walk. And for this woman then to say, in her independence, in her I am woman, see me roar, I bring home the bacon, don't treat me like I'm beneath you. I'm not following you until you can show me X, Y, and Z. And then the brother's like, hey, this is a faith walk. And I'm trusting God, so I'm asking you to trust God with me. And she's like,
but they don't really be saying that. Let's just be honest. Because if you said it like that, then we be like, oh, okay. Like maybe it'd be like,
stop it.
Okay.
Listen, I was honest in my moment because I ain't always talked that way.
Okay.
Right? I ain't always talked this way. This isn't like, hey, I wrote this book 10 years ago moment. I just figured that out yesterday.
Okay.
But what I'm saying to you is that there are, and you know this to be true, as we pull these covers off,
yes,
there are a lot of sisters who are like, I heard that before.
Yes, I'm right? One of them. Yeah.
So, when that becomes the pushback, when that becomes the immediate response to a brother who's trying, then it becomes, okay, what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? Like, honestly, a lot of brothers, and I was this guy for a minute where I was just like, I don't want to ever be in a relationship because the pushback is more sometimes than the reward. And so it's, why am I fighting with you to walk a path that you say you want to walk?
Boom, right there. That's how
that's what you want. And I've had conversations. Listen, I've had conversations with women who will say to you in the beginning of the relationship or in the beginning of the courtship or the connection that men don't talk and brothers don't share how they feel. But then when you talk to a brother who talks to you and shares how he feels, then you get you too sensitive. All you talk about is your feelings. Why do I want to hear so guys are like, you don't know what you want, woman. So let me just leave you alone. And so that pushing and tug of war moment really creates a lot of the problems and the struggles that happen when we're talking about submission in relationships, because it's, when a man has gotten to a place where he feels like I'm hearing from God or I'm on this path. I'll give this last example. I give my son, my oldest son, which, for a whole lot of reasons, is very focused on his life goals. Right. And he's very transparent, because one of the things I've always said to him, and I say to both of my sons, is that, always be honest, always be true with what it is that you want. I said, because at the end of the day, you're going to either run across some folks who are going to say no, and you might run across some folks that's going to say yes, but be true to who it is that you are and what you want. And so he would constantly say to folks, my goal is X, Y, and Z. And I'm not going to allow you to take me off of that. If what you want to do deviates me from my ABC, then I'm just going to let you go. And he's operated. He still to this day operates in that place because it works and it keeps him on track. And so for a lot of us, myself, and listen, I wish I had my son's zeal at that. And when I was his age, because I was the guy who was like, so which way the wind blowing today? That's which way I'm going. We're going this way. And then tomorrow I'm going the other. Like, I spent more time going zigzagging through life because I didn't have clear vision, that I wasted a lot of energy, time, and resources. To be able to be focused like that helps. to have a woman who understands your focus is just absolute. So that's
I like this. I think that there's more to it. I think that
please share.
ultimately what's being said is, hey, listen, we can't truly submit to anyone or anything until we get to know who we are, right? And when we begin that understanding about knowing who we are, our individual selves, why we were created, our purpose, then we have the awareness to be able to surrender, so that we might be able to increase, because the taking of away from, or the going under submarine sub, right, doesn't mean that we're drowning, but it is the ability to go under to come up, right? And so for me, it's neither or that someone has anything to do with my submission, but my submission is my personal walk. It's a part of my character and my humility. It's a part of my integrity. It's a part of who I am. I'm tying it all into my servanthood too, right? But we aren't going to be able to get to that submissive place until we've dealt with the things that keep us in the dark, right? The things whereby we keep the covers on, and we neglect to really address in the appropriate way. And this is what I'm learning through my own healing journey, right? As I take on this healing challenge in 2021, I'm learning that the more I focus on myself and what I'm needing to do and where God is trying to take me, I end up learning how to do a lot of the things in which I thought were really hard to actually accomplish, such as, being quiet, such as, submitting myself to things. I'm just being honest. We being honest here, right?
Listen, put it on the table. That's right.
So this is it. And then also being able to walk in my truth. So just like your son said, my son is the same way. He's about to be 16 and he has this ideal in his conversation. Sometimes I'm like, what? I don't really get your personality, but it's not that it's a negative thing. He is surely focused. He is really driven, and
blinders on.
And it's okay to have the focus is there. The thing is that the outside people who are close need to be able to have the conversations to mold what that looks like, right? Because oftentimes it's drawn in and it can go either way. With that being said, we're gonna wrap this up, and I really wanted to how can we kind of help men gain a different view of submission? And then what is it that we can do to kind of help as women too, to break the cycle, right? Help us with that understanding.
Right. So I guess the first piece to that, Monica, is really just to eliminate the negative of the word. Right? Because for whatever reason, we have culturally decided that when we talk about submission, it comes across as a negative thing or a bad thing to do. So removing that is probably the first thing. Learning how to look at submission as a positive in your life. I'll give this analogy because it worked for me. It was said to me many, many years ago, and I didn't get it when they first said it to me, but it does make sense now. And it's an agricultural analogy. So whenever you need something to grow, you have to bury it. It has to be submerged in dirt and soil and darkness in order for you to fertilize it, to water it, and for it to now sprout and grow and become something great, right? And so when you're in a relationship or you're building a relationship, whether it is with your colleagues or if it's with your significant other or your children or even within self, you have to take a moment to kind of submerge that. You have to bury that so that you can allow it a chance to grow new. And sometimes when you take, your relationship with your, I'll go here with the significant other, the two put something together, it helps that if you're both in that place where you're like, you know what, I'm not expecting immediate gratification out of this. I'm expecting a nurturing process. So I'm going to learn from you. You learn from me. Let's put this here and watch what grows from it. It's that organic relationship where we're not pushing, pressuring, or trying to guide it. We're allowing it to manifest the way that it's meant to manifest. I think that helps.
Yeah, that's good. So we're going to remove the negative word, and we're going to see submission as a positive in our lives. Yeah, and then from there, we're going to not expect immediate gratification, but we're going to see it as a journey, and we're going to nurture it. That's really good. I like that. That brings to my remembrance why we're asked and called to pray without ceasing, right? So that it's a constant nurturing. It's a thing to bring us back in alignment with who we are and where we're supposed to go. What are some other things that can really help from a male perspective to begin the healing of that perception of the submissive place?
It boils back to just self-awareness. I think when we are in a position where we are looking at ourselves, and as I call them, mirror moments, when we have those mirror moments and we're honest and transparent with them, we're able to start breaking down those areas and understanding that, you know, for a man, it's okay to not have the answer. It's okay to seek a response or support from somewhere else other than within yourself, whether that be from another brother or from a through prayer and meditation or whatever it is that you use to know that that's okay and that it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of you not being the strong man. It's really just a part of you bettering oneself.
Yeah, that's good. So knowing that we don't need to have all the answers and that we need to have some self-awareness, I'm hearing from you that our first step would be to kind of assess where we are in life and be honest about that piece of it. But then what is it that we do or should do after we have gained an understanding about where we are and we see all those flaws? Then what happens?
Well, once you've identified the flaws, it's time to get to work.
Right.
Well, it's time to get to work. And that process is not, again, it's not an overnight process. The truth be told is most of us didn't get in the position we're in overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But identifying it and acknowledging it then becomes the chance to now, one at a time, if you can, or if you're really good and better than I, you take on more than one. But identifying those moments, those places, those things, and strategically putting a plan in place to better yourself in those areas. You know, I tell folks often, and a lot of people don't believe it, I used to be a very introverted person. This process right here would have never happened for me. I didn't talk. I wouldn't talk to people. But it took effort and time to be able to articulate, share, and express what I was thinking and feeling. That's just not overnight. It took some time for me to become comfortable with Ned in that arena and in that place, in that space. And it's the same thing with other things. Other areas you have to just put the plan in place and then work the plan.
Okay. So for us, when we say get to work, is it about that getting to work piece? Is that putting the plan in place, or is that what your thoughts are?
Absolutely. It's working the plan. I mean, you know, and understand also the process of creating the plan isn't done in a bubble. It isn't always done in a bubble. Some things you might be able to identify and be like, yeah, I need to do better at this, because we can see some of our faults because they're surface. You know, you might look at yourself and say, hey, you know what? I need to not drink so much. So I'm going to put some stuff in place to deal with that. I need to not smoke cigarettes. I need to stop doing this. I need to stop doing that. Those are some of those surface things. But when you start talking about the internal stuff, like how do I get over my fear of not speaking publicly?
Right.
That's an internal moment. You know what I mean? How do I, get to a place where I have open and honest conversations and stop lying to my spouse? How do I get to a better place when I am, consciously being aware of my actions and how they impact my children? Those are the deeper areas that you have to seek support, seek help, whether it's through word of mouth or reading or seminars, webinars, whatever, to get the understanding so that you can create a plan and then work that plan.
That's good. That's really what I want to leave our people with, right? Is we're not just going to give you a bunch of the stuff that we go through, but and we're not going to give you just high level things. We're going to try our best to think about. We're going to look in the mirrors of ourselves and the experiences that we have gone through to really delve in to say, you know what? When I was realizing that I was at my lowest moment in life and I was going through and I was getting ready to lose my children and the things, what was it that I needed to do in order to get myself back on track? I had to do some self-reflection. And what that looked like was me really getting up and facing me and the hurt, right, that I was dealing with. And then being able to say, you know what, I'm not strong enough to do this on my own. And then recognizing that I wasn't supposed to do it on my own and I didn't have to be strong. That it was in my weakest hour, right, where I got the strength that pulled from other places, whether it be from the higher power, whether it be from, friends and family or people just that God just sent my way. It was complete strangers who reached out to me to talk to me, right. To put something, a glimpse of goodness in my ear. Those things take time. It's still a journey. And although I might not be in that really dark space, I'm still on the journey towards my own full-fledged healing, right? And it takes time. Be gracious to yourselves. Absolutely. I just thank you so much for always sharing and being transparent and being willing to be a guiding light, and letting your light so shine for all to see, right?
My best, as always.
Yes. That's all that we're called to do, right? That's it. Right. And we hope that you guys have enjoyed spending this last hour with us. And if there's anything else that you guys would like to hear from us, please let us know. Again, we still want to hear from you. We thank you for your comments. We thank you for trusting us with the things that are on your heart. And we just ask that you continue to bring them through to the throne room. Connect with us. Again, we always love to hear from you. Well, until next time, we will see you next week. We have a special edition next week. I'll wait for that announcement, but just know we are anticipating a great turnout next week. And so until then, we thank you and we hope that you have a blessed and wonderful week.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye-bye.